What's up, y'all? Thank y'all again for coming to Culture Travels Podcast. We are here today to talk to Deborah Jarmon, the CEO of what is soon to be the third largest African American museum in the country. And if y'all don't know, on the Culture Travels Podcast, we tackle the biggest topics at the intersection of travel and culture with the people who know the most. And so excited to bring on Deborah today to talk about what it means to build a museum. How do you build an African American museum? How do you navigate the challenges around building an African American museum? And then how do you scale that into what is soon to be, again, the third largest African American museum in the country? And so today we have Ms. Deborah Jarmon, CEO of the San Antonio African American Community Archive Museum. Hey,
And museum.
And museum.
Really
And museum.
good. Hey, Leroy.
How are you?
Folks out there.
How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk to you. I admire you. Talking to your team, you know, they speak very highly of you, and I see day in and day out the work you put into elevating Black voices and culture in your city, and then also building spaces for those voices and for those people in your city. And so before we get into the new location, I want to talk a bit about what is SACAM?
Wow. So SACAM is a community archive and museum. When you think about community archive, that's radical in and of itself, because typically as community, especially communities of color, we don't get to tell our story. Our stories are told for us by the news, or if you have someone that is just so motivated that doesn't look like you, that's a part of the community, they say, okay, well, this seems
I can tell this story.
Right,
Yeah.
right. This seems like a worthy story. Well, all of our stories are worthy. So Everett Fly, who is a National Humanities Award winner under President Obama's administration, he lives here in the city. He's noted throughout the country for doing preservation work.
Okay.
He saw that when San Antonio was celebrating the tricentennial, there were 2 mentions of African descendants in the tricentennial. It was the period of enslavement and the Iceman, George Gervin. That was it.
And the tricentennial is like the 300-year
300th
birthday
year. So it
of...
was 2018.
Okay.
But the city started planning, I want to say like in 2015, for this huge celebration. And Everett said, oh, this is not. This just...
There's more of us here. Yeah. This can't be it. This can't be all of Black history in 2 sentences in San Antonio.
He knew better.
Yeah.
Again, because he's noted across the country for preservation work. And he's done a lot of work here in the city, especially they call on him when they're getting ready to demolish things on the east side. So his name is a part of the Alamo Dome research report and, you know, pulling out the people that used to live there and what this neighborhood means. They tore the neighborhood apart.
Yeah.
Anyway. But nonetheless, he got with George Frederick, who still owns the historic Sutton property on Cherry Street, and said, you know, you have this historic home, and it's from a family who has meant so much, not just to San Antonio, but actually to the United States. Why don't we come together and create an archive and museum? And at the same time, he had associates in North Carolina, and he knew about a grant opportunity to build a community archive. So that's how all of this SACAM came together in 2018. Well, 2017 is when we were founded.
And you've been CEO since day one.
No.
Okay.
No, but I was the second employee.
Okay.
So the first employee came on in February of 2020, and that was a bookkeeper. And I'm grateful that the board saw, you know, we need to have a paid bookkeeper on our team. So from 2017 to 2020, it was completely volunteer led. And I was minding my own business after selling our bed and breakfast in King William. I was volunteering at Dream Week, and I received a text message saying, hey, SACAM needs an executive director, and these are the qualifications. If you know someone, send them this text. I got the text 3 times, Leroy. The third time, I said, okay, this is the third time I got the text. And if I know someone, I will send them your way. And they said, no, we're sending it to you. So then I stepped away and I thought about it. And I said, well, let me pray about this because I didn't have any of the qualifications.
Oh, that's big.
That they wanted.
That's big. It's and I want you to finish that thought, but the reason that's big and I think is important to touch on. I was just having a conversation yesterday with my fiance about how men and women look at job opportunities differently based off their qualifications. Whereas men will typically, I don't care if I'm qualified or not, I'm gonna pursue it. Whereas some women will say, if one thing I'm not qualified for, there's one criteria, one skill set that they don't align with, most of them will just say, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to pursue it. You're saying to become the executive director of music with no qualifications. Fuck it, I'm going to do it. I'll do it.
No, I said, I'm going to pray about it. And I do want to come back to that. Let's just talk about that right now. So what's interesting, the board did what you would expect them to do. And actually, I came along late in the game. And that's really a story off podcast over a glass of wine or coffee or something. But they had actually decided to hire someone, but they stopped the process when I put in my resume. And I was like, wow, okay. And then they called me back for a second interview. But job descriptions are basically written, I believe, to write us out of the opportunity. And that was not intentional for the board. They were doing the best that they could and the best they knew how to do. And it would make sense that you would want to hire an executive director that had a master's in museum study. I didn't. And the board took a chance on me anyway. But what I did have was the community insight, again, the bed and breakfast. I was on the board of the Alamo City Black Chamber of Commerce. I worked with Dream Week. I loved people, being an only child. My parents were very set on taking me to every museum possible whenever we traveled. And we traveled several times a year. My dad was retired from Consolidated Rail. So we had train passes, right? So I got to see the country through the window of a train car or the back seat of a car. So, I could say I've been to every World's Fair, starting at the New York World's Fair in 1964, I think it was. So I knew culture and I love to travel, culture travel. So I had, I came with some things. But I certainly didn't come with the master's in museum studies. And fast forwarding, I'm going to get back to how I got there, but fast forwarding and the, now when we write job descriptions, very intentional about leaving space so someone could think, maybe I am qualified. So one of the things.
And this is what you do at SACAM. This is your process.
Right. So we write, for instance, one job description we just finished, you needed a bachelor's degree or work experience. And the work experience could be determined by just your experience. It doesn't. So
on the bed and breakfast.
Yes. Yeah. Or even if you loved history and you've traveled and you've been to countless museums and you can answer questions about those museums, could certainly qualify you to work in a museum. And we train people anyway. So, so back to me and SACAM. So I, after the second interview, they said, well, we think we want to hire you. And there was some back and forth. And I started on March 3rd, 2020. That was 3 days before the world shut down.
Excuse me. Wow. I can't even imagine.
But, that was really good for me.
To be just thrown in like that with everything that was going on.
It really allowed me to step back and see what was going on because things stopped. And so I could really wrap my head around, okay, what needs to be done? Yeah. I had been to SACAM, I'd been to some of the programming, so I was familiar, but I wasn't familiar with the inner workings of it. And actually, had never ran a nonprofit before either. I worked at nonprofits, very active in my church's Economic Development Corporation in Oakland. So it was a learning curve for sure.
Man, I can't imagine but to your point, things slowed down. You get a chance to sort of assess what it is we're going to do. And so you come on board March 13th, 2020. You have the pandemic. You're working through that. Are you also at that time thinking about what does the future of SACAM look like?
Oh, absolutely. I was brought on in March. Chairman of the board, president of the board resigned June 1st, and she's the one that hired me. And I was like,
My safety net. You brought me on.
yes, that right there. And all of those thoughts that's going through your brain right now, right there.
Questioning yourself as well?
So, no, I didn't question myself. I
Good.
just realized, okay, you need a plan. There was a strategic plan, but I needed a plan to approach the strategic plan. And I needed to go to our funder and say, this is our major funder, and say, this is what I see happening in the time that I've been here. So in the 3 months, I just did a SWOT analysis, and I went to our funder and I said, this is where we are. I see challenges in these places. I see strengths in these places. I see opportunities here, and I see threats here. And I think one of the biggest challenges was where we were located.
The location, really?
Yes. And that was Cherry Street at the time.
That's right. Okay. That wasn't downtown yet. You have not yet moved downtown. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And the house needed a lot of work. We were a tenant. It is the home of Hope House Ministries. So there were Hope House Ministries. They provide support for the unhoused and for people in the community that needs food and clothing and things like that. So with COVID, and then with there being physical collections there really wasn't space for archiving. I said, okay, this is a huge limitation for us. So we need to figure out something different. Well, at the same time, George Frederick, who runs Hope House Ministries, and he was one of the founders, also realized, wow, this is COVID and our house isn't COVID ready. And thinking of his main mission at Hope House wasn't SACAM. We were a tenant.
You were a tenant, yeah.
His mission was the unhoused, and this is COVID. So there was a lot going on. So he said, SACAM, your lease is up. I think it needs to be up so we can figure out what we're doing here as a mission.
And so now you need a new location.
But I knew that the handwriting was on the wall anyway with COVID and just kind of seeing how all that was working. So I, through being on the Chamber of Commerce, and God sets us up and we don't even realize he's setting us up, right? So through being on the Chamber of Commerce, I read things that were happening in the city all the time. And I realized that La Villita, they were trying to basically revamp the village.
Yeah.
And I thought there could be some openings there. So I reached out to the city and said, hey, are there some openings? And they said no. That they were all full. And then lo and behold, about a month later, I don't even think it was a month, Leroy. It was probably 3 weeks later, I received an email and said one of the tenants who had the space backed out of the space. And so we're going to put out a new request for proposal for the space, which is at 218 South Presa. And you all are welcome to submit a proposal. Okay, now I have to write a proposal for the city of San Antonio. And if you know anything about bureaucracy,
Oh my
right,
gosh.
And how many pages that
Oh
need to
my
be
gosh.
in.
And you're not even going to read all of it anyway. That's the they're not even going to read the full proposal. It's like, okay, how much is it going to cost? What are you trying to do? That's literally all they're looking for.
Yeah. So, but we were able to get the proposal in on time.
Yeah.
And the city loved the proposal. So that was in May when our lease was terminated. The RFP came out in June. And it's also the city's budget season. And so they wanted a quick turnaround so they could vote on it and see what would happen. And so by October, by the start of the city's fiscal year, we had, I believe it was October, they told us that we had won the proposal.
All of this took place in 2020.
Yes.
Man.
And we could move in January 1, 2021.
My gosh.
So it's been a whirlwind.
And now you're working on a new location.
So
when you took the current location, and in a minute we'll bring up a picture of it because I want to talk a bit about the current location. But when you moved into the current location, Obviously your thought process, I got to build out this museum. But again, are you also looking towards the future?
Absolutely. So let me back up. So from May, so we really didn't have office space because we were officing out of Cherry Street, and then we were doing some co-working stuff at Liftoff,
Yeah.
which was a part of Lift Fund.
Lift Fund, yeah.
But now we have an archivist and a program manager and an office manager / bookkeeper. And it was challenging to work there. And so I asked our funder, hey, do you know of any office space? So we actually moved into our office in August of 2020 at the Whitty. And then in January, we moved to La Vida. Now that space is a whopping 715 square feet. Are we grateful? Absolutely. Yeah. Because one, we have just a community of tenants that's great. It is the original home of St. Philip's College.
That's right, yeah.
Yes. So to be in a space that was the home of what is now a historically Black college and university and a Hispanic serving institution is heartwarming. To be downtown was good. To be in a place where tourists come was good because we were only open on Cherry Street one day a month.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The fourth Saturday from 10 to 2. And that was a complete change because now the city is requiring us to be open every day.
Because you got city funding. That's a part of it.
And La Vida is
open, yeah.
Every day of the week. So we had to figure out, okay, how are we going to do this? What exhibits are we going to put in there? What makes sense? So again, I have no problem admitting what I don't know and finding help. So the Smithsonian's Main Street project is what we used as our kind of roadmap to building that small museum. And that's exactly what it is. It's a museum on Main Street, if you can imagine a museum in a small town, right? And we use their guidelines on how to do it. And that's how we created SACAM at La Vida.
Can we bring up, Guy, the photo of the current SACAM location?
Yeah, we're right on the corner of Presa and Nueva. What we really liked about that space is that it was a house, so it wasn't that different from moving from our Cherry Street location here. We wanted to make sure it was inviting, hence the rockers on the front porch. So you could feel like, all right, I'm coming to a space that's welcoming. Most people are surprised when they come in. They think they're going to see a house museum. It's not a house museum. It is a museum in a house. And again, we use the Smithsonian's model. So when you walk in, there's an exhibit on the wall. It's not, filled with stuff that you have to kind of figure out what it is.
Yeah. I've obviously had many opportunities to visit your current location. And one of the things I always feel, and even people that I brought by there, either folks that are local to the community or travelers that are coming through, they all speak to the warmth and the hospitality that they feel and experience when they come to not just the museum itself, but SACAM events. And, we had Jeff May, your chief administration officer, on the podcast a couple months back. And one of the things he talked about and was centering throughout the conversation was that we believe in hospitality and service at SACAM. People will remember how you made them feel.
Absolutely.
And so you and it all starts with you. And so how do you deliver that sort of feeling and experience through SACAM, the museum, and through the events that people are attending?
Well, when you think about us as people of color, you go into spaces and you're followed because people think, are they going to take something? Are they going to damage something? Are they going to understand what they're looking at? Are they going to respect our space?
Are they going to bother the other people who are around? Are they going to be a disturbance to the non-melanated folk?
All of that. And so we're like, no, we want people to come in and feel like this is your space. These are stories that we're elevating. And we're going to talk about that when we move into how that will really come to fruition in our new space. But they're the community stories. So if we're if you think about San Antonio and the picture that we want to paint of our city, of it being this real and true experience, and how San Antonio is multicultural and welcoming, why would we build a space that was anything less than that? And think about it, when you go to your grandmother's house, and to me, that's where I think about stories starting, right? Our elders, our ancestors. It was always a place of warmth and of welcoming, where you felt like I could get a hug here.
Even when they had plastic on the couch, you know, it was still.
Oh my goodness, yes, the plastic on the couch.
It was still warm.
Don't go in there.
I done fell asleep many nights on some plastic sofas, but no, it is, and you know, we'll talk about how that feeling of warmth, community, and family is consistent throughout Black spaces, not just here in your city, San Antonio, but our team. As we've been traveling to these different communities, we feel that, and it makes it very clear on who is behind the design of the places. And sorry, you good?
I thought I was going to sneeze. I'm sorry. Okay.
The places that we're experiencing, if it is us, if it is our hands creating these things, then you feel that warmth, that hospitality, that connection. And if it's not, it just doesn't exist, and it's not there. And so we talked about how you all got here. 2020, you took over the reins. You all moved into the La Bayita location, and you've been there since 2021. And now you're working on a major project to move you all into a new, larger location. I want to bring up just one of the images of the new building that you all are going to move into. And let's just talk about why that building, why that location, not that one. It's the Crest building. You ain't trying to hold it. My goodness. I had no idea. I thought day one it was, you were that, and then even still being thrown in 2020, thrown in and having to figure that out. And I think that obviously there's a larger conversation in terms of, if you don't, and maybe that's something we talk about another time, but just taking a chance on yourself and the opportunities that are presented to you, whether or not you believe you are yet ready for them.
Well, I prayed about it, and I am a spiritual person full of faith. Yesterday was the last day of Kwanzaa, and from the recording, that is. And it's my favorite principle. It's Imani, and that's to believe with all of our hearts in our parents, our teachers, and our leaders, in the righteousness and victory of the struggle. So when God said, yes, I know he's not going to lead me to something that he's not going to lead me through.
It's beautiful. New location. All right, let's take a look at the new location. I've seen some renderings of it. I'm truly excited about it. And this is the new location, the Crest building that you all be moving. That is a massive jump from a 700 beautiful 700 square foot place to now. How big is the spot?
So it's 103,000 square feet, and we will take up every single inch of that. What you're looking at on the left is the old Grant department store. That's where the rooftop activations are. Yeah. That's the roof of the old W.T. Grant department store. And then to the right is the Crest department stores. So 103,000 square feet. And that, it's all so divinely appointed. Dr. Carrie Lattimore, late Dr. Carrie Lattimore, was the African American Studies professor at Trinity University. And he worked with Trinity and the city and Gray Street Partners, who owned that building, to put an African American Civil Rights Institute in the building on the Crest side. He couldn't have the entry level because that's occupied by Texas de Brazil, but he talked about the basement and the upper floors. And he contacted SACAM and said, hey, this could be an opportunity. I think you guys may want to look at it. And I told Carrie, so we talked about it. I never went down to see it, but I told him, I said, I'm just not sure how that would work because we don't have entry level access. And the only museum that I know that's successful, that's not entry level, is the Sixth Floor Museum in Dallas.
Yeah.
And obviously, because the significance of the sixth floor, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see people coming to an African American museum that didn't have street presence.
Mm.
Well, and the reason why the crest was so significant to Dr. Lattimore, and it's significant to SACAM, is on March 10th, March 10th in 1961 or 1960. Oh man. So I get for skipping breakfast. Anyway, I will get you those dates. And it normally just rolls off my tongue, but that's what I get for skipping breakfast. So I think it's March 10th, 1960. Anyway,
I'm the same way. I gotta figure. I'm the same way. It's there. It's there.
That's gonna bug me.
Yeah.
The city of San Antonio, 8 department stores desegregated their lunch counter that day, and the Crest was the first one that opened its door. That in and of itself is exciting. So to be in a space where we couldn't eat at the lunch counter, where we couldn't try on clothes, we couldn't try on shoes. Early on, you weren't even welcome in the front door. There's another door at the end of the building that Blacks had to go in through. And now we own this space as a community. That's huge.
So we got some renderings of like exhibit spaces, what they're going to look like inside, and we'll bring those up. And how much is this project?
Okay, so I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah.
It's going to be north of 70 million.
Okay.
So we're looking at about 25% of that, though, will be covered by tax credits because it is a historic building. Both of them are. So we're still looking at raising, though, $60 million.
So how do you get that 60 million? I know you all are running like a capital campaign. Even there's an opportunity for community members to invest in this project. I currently invest in the project. I want my name on the building. I thought that was so cool. So how are you all currently raising capital, and how can community members and even folks that don't live in the city, we support, we're going to show up for our people as long as we have the information. So what does the fundraising look like right now, and how can folks support?
So the easiest way to support us is to really go on our website, SACAM.org, and there's a donate button. You can certainly call. You can email me at admin@SACAM.org. We would love to give tours. We've already spent about $2 million just in cleaning up the building. The Crest building hadn't been occupied since the late 80s, and the Grant building was just recently vacated by the Children's Museum. So it has been vacant for about 10 years. A lot of mold cleanup, and getting the sewers to work. I could go on and on. It was a lot. But so the capital. So what's interesting, I just found out that local philanthropy has not supported our project as quickly for several reasons. One, and this was from a local philanthropist. One, they think that it's quite ambitious. Two, they're wondering if we are creeping away from our mission with the parking lot, the event center, and the hotel. So now all I could do was think, we are renting the Maze Center from the Whitty. It was built as a special event center to help them earn revenue to keep their doors open.
Which is what you all are, you're doing the same thing. So again, a question we were going to talk about is like, what are the political and economic challenges and that sounds like one of them.
That's huge.
The political and economic challenges you all are facing to fundraise and build this museum.
Absolutely. The parking lot, because we have an option to purchase the parking lot next door to this space. And right now that parking lot is generating close to $1 million in annual revenue. The Tobin has a parking that was built to help them with revenue. So I'm thinking, so why are we different? You and I already know that answer. So the exciting thing is, though, non-local philanthropy, they see it and they're excited.
Ms. Deborah, listen. the amount of conversations I have with, and this is getting very specific to the Black San Antonio experience when it comes to just trying to build something and do something. The amount of conversations I have with folk like yourself who are ambitious, dedicated, and committed, and for whatever reason, can't find the support, both in resources and in capital, to build and scale what you're trying to do, we can step outside of this city and get that support. And then we're like, well, what is going on here? So you talk about the outside support. What does that look like?
So we just received a grant from Eli Lilly. So they help us with all of our diabetes medicine for $2.5 million there in Indianapolis.
How did they find out about you all, the project?
Through the Association of African American Museums and the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, they are so excited to support us, and we have a great partnership with them.
And again, I think that speaks to when you're not getting what you need in your city, is there an opportunity to step out into other spaces?
Absolutely.
And for you, and I see you all travel a lot. Your team is going to Dallas, to Kansas City, to DC. Like y'all are all over the place. And I think, and you obviously can speak to this, but is that a part of the fundraising, just getting the story out there, sharing the brand?
So it's an unintentional consequence. So we're going to all these different places because we're learning. We are looking at other museums. We're talking to their staff. Every time we go to a city for a conference, we go to like museums. Now, like is interesting because it doesn't necessarily need to be an African American museum. Yeah. We traveled to Dallas. For instance, we went, of course, to the African American Museum there. It was just amazing to sit with their team. But we also went to the Dallas Holocaust and Human Rights Museum and sat with their team, and the Sixth Floor Museum and sat with their team. And we asked their team, so I sat with the CEO, the historian sits with the historian, the archive, so it's across the board.
And you're building relationships at the same time.
We're building relationships, and we asked them, what's working for you all? What did you try that didn't work? What would you do differently? And all of these museums are excited to tell us, this is what worked. This is what didn't work. This is why it didn't work. So we're learning. I have no problem saying, I don't have a master's in museum studies, but God has given me something else. He's given me the ability to build relationships, to talk with candor, to say, we're trying to do this. We know the stories here are rich, and we want to make sure that the stories are told. Yeah, it's the fundraising piece and getting the story out there is kind of an unintended consequence, but it's a very welcome.
Let's take a look. I'm excited for people to see some of the photos and renderings of the new space and exhibit. So sorry, Guy, I know you have brought them up already. So we'll go through them. So this is just like a blueprint of the place.
It's a cross section. So we own all of that space except the blacked out space where you see Texas Day Brazil.
Okay.
So the lower level will be classrooms and an auditorium and a session space. We also are putting out an RFP for a lounge, and whoever wins that RFP, they will have to align with our mission. Then, of course, we have the entry level. We have 2 levels of exhibition space. We have special event space. And because we're downtown in a prime location, we're putting a 12-room boutique hotel on the top. So
can we check out the next one? Okay. What's this space?
So that is the hotel, the 5th floor.
Welcome to SACAM Hotel. I like this.
So people will be able to spend the night. It's a boutique hotel. So we're looking at about $350 a night.
Okay.
So this is exciting for several reasons. One, that we can showcase Black art. We can showcase Black hospitality. We talked about that at the beginning. What does it feel like to walk into a space and feel welcome?
Welcome, yeah.
Like, oh, wait, are you sure you belong here? Yes, you belong here. And to be able to partner with the St. Philip's Hospitality Program.
The HBCU.
Yes.
HBCU, okay.
So students will be able to come there and work and really get a sense of this is what true hospitality looks like. And it won't be branded. So we're too small to be a Marriott or a Hilton
Okay.
or Wyndham. It will be an independently ran hotel. And we have been, as you said, we've been traveling. We have traveled and we're members now of the National Association of Black Hotel Owners, Operators, and
Gotcha.
Developers.
Okay.
And one of the things that they shared with us was for us to hire a top-notch general manager that could help us build it out. And we actually would pay that manager to run the hotel instead of getting because we were looking at getting a consulting firm to run it for us. And we were told that that's not
the best way to do it.
Best option for 12 rooms.
Now, what's this spot?
That's the entry hall.
Okay.
And
it's
as
beautiful.
as soon as you walk in from the street, that's what you're going to see. So it doesn't look like a quiet space, does it? And that's intentional. On the left is the lunch counter. So we are recreating the lunch counter experience. In the Grant building, we're not sure where the lunch counter was, but we know it was in the entry level. On the Crest side of the building, the cafeteria was on the lower level. But we're recreating the typical five and dime lunch counter experience. Again, what makes this exciting is we're bringing Black chefs in to do that work. So we're having a Black chef in residency program to highlight the wonderful chefs that we have here in the city that are ignored. Because from what I understand, there's only one event space that has a Black chef on their preferred vendor list. That is not going to be the case at SACAM. So we get to highlight all these amazing Black chefs. And the sous chefs will be again from St. Philip's. So we're super excited. Oh, wait, can you go back real quick? And at the back of the very back is our museum shop. Again, highlighting Black craftsmen, Black businesses. And then you see at the front of that where the young lady is standing. We talked about fundraising. All of those red and blue and yellow panels, those are all names of people that have fed into the campaign. And then on the stairs going down will be the donor wall.
And that where it says SACAM Cultural Center, all of the red, yellow, pink, those are the names of folks that have contributed.
Yes.
And so for people that want to contribute, there's an opportunity to get their family's name or their name literally placed in the museum, which is what your boy is trying to do. So let me get y'all
and I love
$25
that,
a
right?
month.
Because you walk in and you see people's names in museums and you wonder, who are those people?
Well, you know what? I just suppose this to, I look at that and then I compare it to what is not downtown San Antonio, but the MLK statue that's not too far from here. I don't know who was behind that statue. That's not Martin Luther King. And then when you look at the names of the people who were at least financially behind that project, some donated as much as little as $30. It's like, okay, that's not us. That is, you could very clear, it's not us. And then the representation and the depiction of MLK is not how we would do it. And it makes sense as to why now that statue and the story behind that statue is not reflective of the Black community, because it was not put there for us, or at the very least, it was not funded by us, supported by us, created by whatever the case may be. And then I look at this and I say, okay, I can see how that is a representation of my story, of my experience. It was our hands that touched it and put it and made it and created it and brought it to where it is. And which is why I love that piece, opening up the door, allowing community members to invest, get a stake into our cultural institutions.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And we've had 4 community charrettes to get us to this place. We're not doing this as a staff in a vacuum. We've brought the community to the table every step of the way.
This one you love.
Yes. So do you have the one with the community voices? I want to start there.
We do. Let's go to the, I'll tell you when, Guy.
And then we'll come back to this one.
Let me get a description.
You'll see screens with.
It is the one with, hold on, here I go.
I apologize for not having.
No, you're fine. I switched them up.
There you go.
Hold on, Guy. I'll get it to you. No, you did. I'll get it to you right now, Guy.
Oh, okay.
Nope, not that one. Here we go. I want to make sure it's the right one. Right here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, Guy. Okay, I'm going to let him get that uploaded.
Okay. And then if you go back to the entry hall, and I can talk about that. Transition from the entry hall
to While Guy brings it up,
Okay.
the questions about Black culture, tourism, and then your travels, we'll sort of speed through.
Okay.
Not as in rush, but just like, all right, so how much time do you have left?
15 minutes.
Okay. So we'll speak about the Community Voices exhibit, the Joy exhibit, and then we'll transition into, I think that'll be a really good transition into.
Can we do the cross section?
Want to do cross section too? Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Guy, if I'm confusing you.
And if I could, if I need to take longer, I will. Okay. The cross section is the one with the Alamo.
Yeah, that's a good one. So we're gonna speak to the Community Voices, the one I just sent you. The joyful dance section, and that was the one you showed, but we asked to take it down. And then the cross section image. So those three images we'll speak to for this portion. Yeah, chop it.
Okay, I assumed you guys were going to cut a lot of this.
We will. Okay.
So excited about the entry hall. You see people walking up the steps, and the level that they're walking up to is our mezzanine level. And that's going to be really the introduction to give people a sense of what they're in store for. And we're calling that Ubuntu. Ubuntu is I am because you are. So we're so excited. You'll see community, and we are a community archive and museum. You'll see images from the community. You'll see quotes from the community. You'll hear their voices. Ooh. Just so people will understand, this is not a museum that is so far removed.
Yeah, from the community. Yeah.
These are our stories. So I love that. And then the very first exhibit is Rhythms of Joy, which is really turning the typical African American museum experience on its head. When you walk into like the Legacy Museum, which I love in Montgomery, Alabama, you're walking into the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, and you're literally in the Middle Passage because you're in the depths of the Atlantic Ocean. Our story actually didn't start, though, at the Middle Passage. No. Our story started on a continent where we were in control, we were thriving, we're a joyous people. Yeah. So when you walk onto the first floor of our exhibition space, you're going to walk into music and dancing.
I love that.
And what we are about as a people now, don't get it twisted. We're going to take you there because our existence, we're here because we were colonized. We were brought here as enslaved. But that's not where our story begins.
That's not where it began.
Yes.
I love walking into our spaces and the first thing you feel is joy and fun.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. We're excited about that.
Let's look at the, okay. So now this is the whole museum itself.
So we have 2 floors of exhibitions, and it'll be close to 40,000 square feet of exhibitions. But it won't be boring. It's laid out by theme, not by time. So the reason why we laid it out by theme is so you can connect it to culture. Whereas when you go into a museum and it's laid out by time, then you're just really kind of looking at dates, and you're not understanding, especially for our little people, what does this mean to me? So our halls are transformation, which is, we're transforming from joy to something, and then citizenship, persistence, and then healing and joy.
Man, that's going to be, so it's opening in 2026, fully opening in 2026.
Yes.
How do you, oh my God, yeah. All right, so auditorium or event space?
That's the auditorium. Lower level, 400 seats, flexible seating. And we are excited to open that up to the community. What you're looking at there is a jazz night, and there will be, again, you can bring your own pillows and blankets. There will be seats. You could just chill, and that's our space, for us, by us. And that's our special event center on the 4th floor.
Y'all didn't even sprinkle a couple white folk in there. Y'all welcome. We'll take y'all money too. Y'all welcome.
And this is our team. We have 21 employees. Our median employee age is 32.
I love the intergenerational element of your team.
Oh my gosh. I love them. Whenever okay, I'm trying not to get weepy-eyed, but whenever I think about our team, it really does bring me to tears
Yeah.
because they are so passionate about the work that we do every day. They come to work filled with joy. We're all underpaid. It is challenging when you look at what our counterparts make, and we're underpaid just because I'm trying to find the money. But they're dedicated to the mission, and it's incredible to work with people that are dedicated.
And to hear you all talk about how you're underpaid and you're there's an element of volunteerism in this as well, and to put that up against the backdrop of we know Black travelers, that community is a multi-billion-dollar community, multi-billion-dollar market. Black travelers spend well over $50 billion every year, annually, every year. And so, the conversation then becomes, you're building this massive museum, you're opening in 2026. How do you attract Black travelers to a city that's not associated with Black culture and Black people?
Well, we're changing that narrative. That's number one.
That's the work you're doing, absolutely, yeah.
We are working hard to change that narrative. I'm on the board of Visit San Antonio, so they are always hearing my mouth. But I told them, I said, look, if you're going to have me on the board, I'm going to ask you, where are my people in this? And I was thrilled that at our last membership meeting, they noted how much money Black travelers are spending and what needs to happen. Yes, Leroy.
It takes time, y'all. It takes time. It takes
time. What needs to happen as it relates to marketing. This year is a milestone anniversary for the Green Book.
Yeah.
And Visit San Antonio is committed to doing some work around that anniversary, and they're working with our team to highlight that because there were over 80 spots here in San Antonio that were safe spots for Negro motorists.
Green Book locations.
Yes. So we're going to highlight that. They're working with us to highlight what's happening for Dream Week and Juneteenth and our Legacy Awards Ball, which opens Dream Week. So we're just really working with the city to talk about, there's more to San Antonio than what you all are advertising.
Are promoting advertising. And it's just because when we go out and travel, our team and folks, where are you from? San Antonio. There are Black people that live there.
and there's a lot of us here. And what's even more interesting, there's a lot of Afro-Mexican.
Yes.
And
that's a whole nother conversation.
And they're finally saying, yes, there are Black people in my lineage and African indigenous.
Man, I'm really excited to see the role that your team, SACAM, continues to play in sort of the reshaping the narrative of the Black existence in San Antonio in a way to draw Black travelers and Black people to this. Because just hearing third largest museum, it's like, okay, I got to go there. We got to go there. We got to host the family reunion there. We got to host an event there. Dion and the Colorado Buffaloes are just here. It was insane to see how the community, especially our people, responded to that, moving, traveling to these different spaces and events, engaging and spending money and all of those good things. And it's like, all right, are we tapping into that, right? And then also just seeing experiences that feel for them and are pulling and drawing them out. And again, it just speaks to why I love what you all are doing. And that is the way to sort of, as you mentioned, let's reshape this narrative. San Antonio is not a Black city, or there are not Black people that live here. Reshape that narrative, put those stories out like a SACAM story, and give people a reason to come to the city. Give people a reason to move and travel to these places. And so what I want to ask you is, you're all about to open up the new location. What excites you most about, or what do you think you'll feel? Rather, that's the question I want to ask you. What do you think you'll feel when you walk through those doors for a 2026 opening?
Excitement. So that's Black space that will be an icon for Black excellence and for Black culture. And we are 2 blocks from one of the largest monuments to white supremacy ever. So exciting.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So let's do a rapid fire. You travel a lot. Yes. You're the CEO of Growing Museum. Let's talk about your travel experiences. You recently went to Scotland.
I did.
Talk to us about, why were you going to Scotland? What did you do there?
So I went actually as an invitation from Visit San Antonio with Chef Nicola Black.
Okay.
Who, have you had her on this show yet?
I have not.
Okay. You got to get Sean here.
There we go. Yeah. There's Scotland.
Yeah. There we go. With Chef Nicola. We were there to talk about how foodways in the African diaspora can actually bring cultures together.
What? Food waste? Okay.
And there was, so what a lot of people don't know is there's a lot of colonialism in Scotland. Liverpool was one of the largest ports for ships leaving to go to Africa to pick up my ancestors and bring them here. The University of Glasgow, which was one of our hosts, they were one of the first universities I believe in 2015 they did this. They said, okay, we have a history that we recognize, we're reckoning with, let me say it like that, of enslaved building our institution. So we want to give back. They created a center for the study of enslaved people that's been open for 7 years. And it's actually named after a woman that was enslaved by the headmaster of the university. So their work is incredible. And that's what they wanted to talk about. How can we put food on the table to now have conversations about how did we get here and how can we move forward?
Man.
In Scotland.
In Scotland. What are your top 3 favorite museums?
Wow.
I'm kinfolk. I'm looking to travel to some new fun museums, get a really deep experience, and I'm hitting you up. Ms. Deborah, I need 3 museums to go to. What are they?
Well, I'm going to always suggest that you go to the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, and I would recommend that you spend 3 days there.
3 days, literally, yes.
At least 3 days. Then the Legacy Museum in Montgomery, Alabama is incredible. That's going to take you all day, if not more. And then along with the Legacy Museum is the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, which some people call it the lynching monument.
Okay.
That's a lot. It's a lot to take in to walk through that memorial and to see those boulders suspended from the ceiling with names of people that were lynched, and some of them unknown. To walk through there and see multiple names on one day, or multiple unknowns on one day.
Yeah.
And to think about what happened in that county on that day. Yeah.
What's a travel mistake you've made? Why you laughing? You never finished.
Oh my gosh. So, I'm going to say the most recent travel mistake was thinking, why am I going to Scotland? There's nothing there for me.
Word. You didn't even want to go.
Well, I mean, so let's be clear. I have traveled the world and I've never traveled Europe. Never. So this was my first time going to Europe. I've been to Asia, Africa, Australia.
Usually Europe's like the first stopping point for a lot, especially Americans.
Not interested because of the colonization.
Right on, my sister. I should have been like you, Miss Deborah.
Not interested. So I thought, all right, I'm going to go. Obviously, there's something for me here. I was blown away.
And I guess that definitely answers the next question I had, was about new perspectives. What is the travel experience you've had that has led to a new perspective?
Well, so the team at Visit San Antonio are contractors at TTM and the Oxford Cultural Collective. They did a really good job of bringing Black people together. So I got to sit with the DJ. I got to sit with a guy who would be kind of equivalent to the head of the Chamber of Commerce, and to sit and talk to these young people, and of course, people in the food industry and in academia, but to hear them talk about what they're trying to do in Scotland and Edinburgh and Glasgow, and bringing Black businesses together to make it attractive for Black people to come. I'm like, man, it's exactly what we're doing. Yeah. So traveling reminds us that we collectively have so much more in common. than we think.
We do. That is a great segue into our last question. I want to show you, as you know, our team went to Richmond. Richmond flew us out. And there was a ton of experiences that we had that really gave us all new perspectives. Had a great time. Did the slave trail walk in Richmond, Virginia. That was incredibly heavy. I met a lot of great business owners, Black business owners in restaurants. But they had an event that was at a museum. It was a combination of an exhibit and a party. And it was just one of the best experiences I've had right there. Yeah. So they brought us out and they were like, all right, y'all, Friday night, we're going to take you out to an after party exhibit. Like, all right, whatever. There's the party aspect of it where it's the DJs there, the bars in the middle, and it's Black folk just dressed to the nine, having a ton of fun, enjoying themselves. And then outside of that place, it's this beautiful exhibit, a samurai exhibit that they had just opened up. And the whole concept and idea was tour the exhibit, learn about it, and then also just partying.
That is what our new space is.
And it's like, okay, great. So the question was, how did we get something like that to San Antonio?
It's already here. We just have to build it.
Yeah. And that's what the new space is going to be.
Absolutely.
And the thing I loved most about that was, and then talking to the community at Richmond, Deborah, you brought it up earlier. When we go into spaces, we're followed, we're looked at suspiciously, we're questioned. And especially cultural spaces like that. Beautiful, massive museum. Not a Black museum, just a museum. And what I loved most about that was every single one of those Black folk were having fun. They were comfortable. They were connected, and there was no weight on their shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just we just vibing and having a good time.
I love it.
And we saw that it was like we can do that in our city, and you all are doing that and building that for us. And so, thank you is one of the things I want to share with you. And now having a complete sort of understanding of your story and your journey and how you got here. It's now, for me, I know it's not just about the museum and in terms of the legacy you were leaving, building this massive museum, but also, even me as a young man, pursue opportunities. If you're passionate about something, whether or not you think you're qualified for it, pursue it, pray about it, meditate about it, do what you got to do.
Right.
Right. And especially for us, get out there and give it a try.
Absolutely.
And thank you for being the quintessential, most beautiful representation of what that is and looks like. Thank you. No, I'm super excited for you all. Thank you for coming on. I've been an incredible storytelling partner through, since I've been on this journey. And so I want to give you the opportunity to just share with the folks how they can continue to support and where they can, follow SACAM.
Please go to SACAM.org. That's SAAACAM.org. Come by our exhibit space at 218 South Presa. We're open 7 days a week, 10 to 6, Monday through Saturdays, Sundays 11 to 4. We have pop-up exhibits that actually go out to the community if you're a nonprofit at no charge. That's all the time. You don't have to wait until MLK holiday or Black History Month. We are Black
every day, all day, 24/7,
365.
And they don't let us forget it. So,
So, and we also want people to tell other people about SACAM, and we're looking for stories. And this is what's incredible. There's no story that's too small. Some people think, well, no, why would someone want my yearbook? Well, that yearbook helps us connect.
We're all connected. Absolutely.
Yes.
100%.
So it's
100%.
The yearbooks, the report cards, the church programs, all of that. We need it because that's our story. And I am because you are. All of our stories are connected.
Love that. Thank you, Miss Deborah, for doing this. Guy, how we doing? Want to count down? Give me 5 seconds. Stay Black, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in to this episode of Culture Travels Podcast. We had the great opportunity to speak with Miss Deborah Jarmon, the CEO, Executive Director of the San Antonio African American Community Archive and Museum. Y'all make sure to follow them on the socials, Instagram, Facebook. The new location will open up in 2026. And as always, I am your host, Leroy Adams, on this podcast. It's a weekly podcast where we talk about the biggest topics at the intersection of travel and culture, Black culture, with the people who know them most, like Miss Deborah. So Thank y'all for supporting. Check us out on YouTube. And that is a wrap.
Thank you so much. Two things, Hennessy and history.